Hey, you guys, I'm so excited to be on the Craving Conscious podcast with Deann Jensen, right? And boy, we are excited to talk to you guys because both of us have gone through a major change in our lives. And I think it kind of happened at the same time, did it?
Right around the same time. Yeah. Yeah.
So tell the audience hello, by the way, and thank you for being on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh, yes. And thank you. And hello. I'm so happy to be here. I've known Brandoline for some time now, about 4 years. It feels like 2018 when we met and started like collaborating and doing things together. So yeah, it's been a while, and I always love coming and talking to your audience and just talking to you too as well.
Yes, I love it too. And we both transitioned so much. And I mean, I love to like see each other's life on the outside and be like, what is going on over there? So what when did you end up slowing down? Like can you share with the audience like what happened?
Yeah, yeah. So about like the end of last year, um, holiday times, I was planning a retreat. It was a really big like part like of my life, like a big move for me. Like this retreat was like gonna be big for me. Like it was awesome. Um, and then I got COVID and ended up not being able to attend the retreat. And that was, it was something out of my control, but like at the same time, I was like devastated that my health like stopped me from doing something I really wanted to do. And it kind of just shed to light on like this issue that there'd been something that had been kind of like an underlying thing, kind of, intuitively, I knew I was kind of ignoring, like health wise. And I was just like, okay, that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm listening. I'm not going to ignore my health anymore. And I need to figure out the COVID, COVID, that was something like different, but I need to figure out like what is going on underlying in my own body, because just like, I'm a meditation teacher. I have a very consistent, deep meditation practice. And, I knew I listening to my body, and honestly for a couple of years, um, just kind of being like, it'll get better. I'll just, keep going, keep meditating. It'll be fine. It'll just, go away. But it was things like just my energy started really dropping. I gained like 50 pounds in a really short period of time. I was getting hormonal acne, and it was just like, sometimes people would be like, oh, that's just normal stuff. It's just, but I was like, no, this is different. This is something, there's something going on, and I could feel it. And so like the end of last year, I was like, I'm gonna face this. I'm gonna find out what is going on. And that took like, I had to go and get blood tests, go to the doctor. And, I had some fear around that, like getting blood work done, just even going to the doctor. So I had to really just like face it and be like, I'm going to figure it out. Like my body was calling for it. It needed it. And so just get some answers. And so it was really like that period of time, I was going to doctors and, just figuring things out. And I got my official diagnosis for PCOS in February of 2022, but it really started happening like I'd say like November, like when it just all started. Um, the actions and the things started coming into place to get me, to where I needed to be to get the answers. But and PCOS, for if anyone doesn't know, it's a polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it's a hormone imbalance. It can affects a lot of women, but it can affect them all, differently. There's different ways that it can kind of manifest. And but for me, it was a big thing to say, hey, Deann, like you've been ignoring your self-care and you need to like make some changes here.
I think that that is so important, like to go back a little bit where you're like, I had to like face the music and actually go to the doctors, because how many of us, I want to say especially men, like let's blame the men, but how many of us like avoid that? Like, oh, it'll just get better, and then get apprehensive when you're like, I actually have to take action. I'm actually taking action, and I'm going to go ask for help. Like that's scary
Yeah.
shit. I think,
Yeah.
don't you think that's like a huge um hurdle that you had to step over, just admitting that, okay, something's not right?
Oh yeah. And I, th- for me personally too, like I am one of those people, or was like one of those people who is like, I'm not going to the doctor. Like the doctor's not going to tell me anything that, it's going to be helpful. They're going to try to put me on medications. And like, I was just like, I'm not even interested in that. But there were things I needed, like the blood work, and I needed to know. And honestly, I've had to find a balance of my intuition and knowing like what's right for me, and working with my doctor too, because that was their initial thing, was to go on steroids and do medications.
Okay.
I was like, no, not doing that. So I went a different route, but yeah.
Yeah. So, we're all in this spiritual realm and I get nerdy about it. So I think to myself, it was a year ago today, November 1st, that I went to the doctor, and I was like, okay, I have to go to the doctor. So I always think to myself, gee, I wonder if like all the planets were in alignment for physical change.
Right,
Or
right. Because that was right when I was like, I'm going to the doctor too. Yeah.
yeah, and the same thing happened to me. Like she was like, "Oh, you have super high blood pressure. You need all these meds. You're probably going to have, it's hereditary, all the things that they say, and she wanted just to give me all kinds of meds. And I felt the same way as she was like, I I went away from the doctor like, number one, I was pissed off at my body. And I was pissed off at the doctor because she just wanted to cover it up. Um but at the same time, like I knew, because of what happened like with my husband and his health, I was like, all right, you need to go, just go get checked out. And I did, and I about died. I was like, my blood pressure was out of the roof, like through the freaking roof. um so like intuitively I was like, okay, now it's time for me to take control, for me to become more aware. Is that like how you felt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Completely. It was like, okay, like kind of like shedding light on just spots in my life, and it really did. Just my self-care, the self-love, and coming back to just honestly coming back to nature with food, and like just the way I was living. It it led to changes that like really needed to happen, and healing parts of myself that really needed to be healed. Like for me, with the PCOS and the hormone stuff, I had a lot of like healing with my feminine, that and I had done a lot of healing work, like so it was kind of like I was kind of mad too. I was like, what? Like, why do I have this issue, after everything I've been through, all the inner work I've done, like this is popping up. Like I was mad too at first, but I had to come at it with compassion and really see that it was, it was happening for me. And the changes that happened, like if I had kept going the way I was going, I can't even imagine. like,
Yes.
I
So
can't.
like, and I've known you for a long time. So for you to say, oh, I was out of my feminine, I'm kind of a little bit surprised,
Right.
but at the same time, because of everything that I grew through, right? Instead of going through, man, like what a smack in the face.
Right.
because because I see what you're saying. What you're saying is like the self-love and the self-care. And while I think a lot of us on a daily basis are like, oh, I'm relaxing in the tub and I'm doing this and it's my self-care. But is it really? Right?
Right.
Like how much are
Right.
you really, really avoiding? How much are you really
Yeah.
not not necessarily doing, but allowing yourself to just go,
Oh
like the
yeah.
food, like you're saying, like the food. How I don't necessarily want to call us lazy, but what would the word be, where you just became accustomed to.
Yeah, the more it's like we do, like we just our society, like it's just normal to eat unhealthy, like unfortunately, which it's been, I kind of a battle, honestly, like eating more healthy. I've tried to make it really spiritual for myself though, connecting with the plants, connecting with the animals, and making like meals like spell work, like putting together things, for my body, and just trying to make it as magical as possible. But yeah, like I can even think, like you said, like in the baths, how many baths did I take? But like I was still like ignoring my physical activity, what I was eating. And those are the things that like our bodies, like our lower chakras, like the root chakra, and the sacral, is so important for us to feel safe here. And that starts with, our nutrition and our food. And
Yeah, it starts with you, not avoiding you, right? So I was going to ask my audience today, and I still will, is and so I want to ask you this: compared to before you got your diagnosis and to now, can you see a substantial amount of difference in your like morning routine?
oh gosh. Oh gosh, yeah. 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 And it's, I've always had a morning routine, but I didn't realize like how kind of foggy I was in the morning. But things have changed. Like I still do a lot of the same things I did, like for self-care in the morning and getting in alignment, meditation and journaling. But physical activity, like taking walks. And then it doesn't have to be, at least I found for me, like I've lost a lot of weight. My hormones are back in balance. And it didn't take like, going to the gym like for hours and hours. Like my morning routine is still, it's pretty simple. Like I can take a walk outside. Sometimes I do a little jog, or, maybe lift some weights, or do, yoga or something, but it's still like, it's nothing over the top, I guess,
I love that you're sharing that. I feel like my audience needs to hear that too, because so for something for me is like before everything changed, I literally would roll out of bed and do like a Facebook Live, right?
Mm.
And now it's like almost 4 hours before I'll do something. Now people might be like, "Oh my God, that's so extreme, Brandon," but guess what? It's really not. I
Mm.
just make sure that I do every single freaking thing before I take care of anybody else.
Yeah. Oh my
Because
gosh. Yeah.
were you last in did you feel like you put yourself last before?
Yeah.
Even
I mean,
though
had
you
you
went,
asked me then, I would have told you no,
right?
that I was putting myself first, but I was kind of like you, like for like waking up. Yeah, I would journal, I would do my meditation, but then like my focus would be social media, going, clients, and just servicing. And I still come from that place of service, but it's honestly, it's almost better. Like I'm not, you might see on the outside, like I'm not on social media as much as I used to be, but I'm still doing work. It's just different work. Filling myself up first, like having the food, having the sleep, the right amount of sleep. Um, it really, it sounds cliche, you hear it all the time, like self-care isn't selfish, but it really isn't, because when you fill up, like how you're connected, you feel really good in your body. And then the like helping others is, it's easier, or you have more energy for it.
I think a lot of heart-centered service providers struggle big time around what we're talking about. I really do. Because your empathy is, you're like, those people need me, they're waiting for me, I want to
Mhm.
serve them, I want to make their life better. But I also think like what we're talking about too is like taking that extra time, even though I sound crazy with my 4 hours, like I mean I'm just doing the same thing as you, going for a really long walk, um but being able to, if we're having the angst in our belly, like I've got to get to these other people, then we're coming from a place of lack, like that we have to put ourselves after those people. And when we do that, what are we saying to the universe?
Yeah.
Right?
That we're not, yeah, we're not
Worthy.
worthy. And we're not, yeah. Yeah.
That we're not worthy of our own love to our own self. So I feel like, even though I know it sounds crazy that it's 4 hours, it could be 3 hours sometimes, but I'm doing that because I'm letting the universe know, no, this is why I'm here.
Hmm. Yeah. And it is like, that is our experience in this lifetime, is in this body.
Yes. Yes. So what did you do to like slow down? Because you talked about how you slowed down and backed off. I don't want to say you backed off your business, but I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. You backed away for a minute. Well, I guess my question more would be like, what made you come to that epiphany, and like what was some of the actual things that you stopped doing or changed?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess like the diagnosis was a huge epiphany. It was like, no, like I didn't, like this isn't going to be part of my reality. Um, was not happy with the symptoms. And honestly, so I changing my eating habits was a huge thing. And it was like I was trying to make changes and trying to like show up and trying to do all these things, but it's like when you show up like a little bit here and here and here, I kind of had to like stop and just be more present, be, and take a priority. And for me, like in that moment, I knew that I had to learn how to cook for myself. I had to learn how to take care of myself. I had to, get kind of create like a container for myself is what I really like a portal, a very sacred container portal for myself to heal in. And so it was like, okay, like I know food, I know, exercising. And it was it was really hard because social media is very addicting. But I just focused like on those priority things. And I said, everything else can wait, everything else it'll still be there. I had to, remind myself a lot of times too, because the habits, our brains want to kind of just go into the same patterns and the same things that we've done for so long. I mean, I really realized that, I was checking social media probably once an hour. Like someone messaged me, do I need to reply to someone? Does someone need, like, and it was like, okay, I turned off like the notifications for my phone. And like, I was just like, I am just going to focus on this and this healing. Um, and honestly, I didn't know for sure, but I knew that that's what I needed to do. Like, I didn't know for sure what the outcome, was going to be. Like, oh, is my business still going to be there? Is it,
Don't tell. I feel you there, girl. I feel you there.
But it was, and it is. And I still, I had, a small select, clients that I continue to work with. And, and even now, I still, have clients that I work with, signing on new ones. And I feel like I'm kind of like, we do kind of like, I've created that container, and there's been a lot of reflection. And now I can kind of like step back into my role, like from a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you there too. Like, I feel like it's probably the same for your audience. Like, you have all like, what do we call them? The unicorn clients. But I feel like there's a massive amount of my audience and your audience, it's got to be, that are watching everything that we've grown through. Like, wow, she lost somebody and then she had to, struggling with her health. You're struggling with your health and hormones. And then look at how different we look.
Right?
Look, I can see it. Your skin looks so good. Yeah. You like you've lost a lot of weight. Yeah.
You look good
So
too.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. I lost 40 pounds so far. So yeah. It's
Right.
and I didn't do it for the weight. That just happened, you know,
Yeah.
that just happened. But I think coming back too, and that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast too, because so many of my audience is like, wow, wow, wow. They just keep wowing. And it's like, all right, well, let's walk through this together. Like, how many people are out there right now that are wanting that major change before like a catastrophe happens, right?
Yeah, right, right. You don't have to get a diagnosis or have something happen. Yeah.
Or, you know, how many people are out there that have had that diagnosis or something has happened that are just like, I can't, I don't think I could do this on my own. I think it's a
Mhm.
huge mindset thing. Don't you think, like when you're taking things away, adding things, for me at least, I had to come like for me, it wasn't the weight loss. I never thought, oh, I'm gonna lose weight. It was more like, I'm gonna figure this shit out. I got, like I said, because I got pissed off. I'm like, okay, body, I'm gonna figure this shit out. Um, and so now I think, you know, people that are watching are like, you know, how did you navigate through that without sabotaging yourself? You know, that might be a good question for you
Oh,
too.
yeah, that is a good question. And it's, there's a couple pieces. I think one big thing is, when you want to make a change or do something, um, that you don't have to do it alone, to reach out for support. I had my doctors, but I found a functional medicine practitioner, and she had specializes in PCOS, and she had a group, like a group program. And so I took it because, I knew how important it is to have people going through similar situations, and have people to reach out to who have been through things, to learn from them. I think that's huge. And then also my spiritual practice, like meditating. I mean, that's something that I had been doing for so long, but it's my way to connect to spirit. And, I have other spiritual, ways to connect with spirit, but just staying with that practice, following my intuition. And honestly, that meditation practice is, and my spiritual practice, all of it is what kept me grounded. Like, I mean, how easy is it to lose your shit when you get a diagnosis or something happens? And I can't say that I was completely calm and grounded the whole time, like, yeah, I had moments, but like thinking back of like, had this happened to me, 15 years prior, I would have probably gone into like a depression or just really victimized over the diagnosis. But because I had that connection, to my intuition, to my guidance, to my spiritual guidance too, to be able to have somewhere inside to go where I could be told it's okay, like, and feel that support. I get a little emotional because that is really what led me through it. There's just that belief too, that spirit is guiding you, it's happening for you. And yeah, I
I
think
love
that's
that part.
probably the
Yeah.
biggest
It's
thing.
happening for you, right? And it's like, I know this. I'm laughing a little bit because it's like they're nudging, they're nudging, they're nudging, and then they're like, wham. They're like,
Yes.
wham. They're like, we've been telling you all along. Something's going down, you know, because even if you like pull a card, they're like, self-care, eat better. It's like, okay, gotta go, gotta do a Facebook Live, gotta do a podcast, you know.
Right.
But then once it shebangs you, then you're like, wow, you know, in hindsight, seeing it all along. And then, yeah, it is happening for me. Because, like you said at the beginning, if I would have kept going on that same path, it could have been much more catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
Heart problems or heart attack, or I don't know, you know, any of that stuff.
Yeah. And so I guess also there's an importance of just slowing down and really listening to the guidance that we get, and taking it, a little deeper than, yeah, just okay, you know.
Yeah, pay attention to the nudge before they shove you.
Yeah, because yeah, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, there were change like years before, like when I started to feel there was maybe something in my body, like, I could think, yeah, had I gone back then and listened deeper and made some of the changes, it would be different. Now, that wasn't my story. That wasn't what was supposed to happen, but maybe somebody else, could.
True. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not feeling right, you might not be right,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's not
sometimes,
normal to not feel good. It like, I
it's,
mean, sometimes we all do, but yeah.
but yeah, if it's constant and you're just like, I'm always tired or I'm always stressed,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, all that stress in your system, that'll create a whole whirlwind of shit too, anyway.
Yeah.
So, and like, yeah, like you said, it's not normal to not feel good. It's like, make that your normal where you're just like feeling amazing and feeling strong. I think that was my thing too, is, there's different triggers. One of them was the blood pressure. One of them was falling off the back balcony of my cabin that I got.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I couldn't hold myself up. And so I hurt myself and I could have really, really, really injured myself. There was nobody there to help me. So I couldn't climb down. And so I think that was a big thing too, is like, all right, well, you're not even strong, you're just weak because you know what I'm saying? So there was just different things. So yeah, for me, I took like basically almost a freaking year off, pretty much. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, is my business still there? Yeah, they're there. They've been watching the whole time. Did your people support you like when you took time off and were doing the health journey?
Yeah. Yeah. I get like little goosebumps because it was a very warm feeling that I got from them. Even telling about my diagnosis. Because that was hard, to admit that, hey, inner work coach had some inner work that needed to be done.
Oh, let's talk about that, right?
Right. And so yeah, but it was good. It was good. And I actually I had a lot of people, reach out that, I have that too, or I've had a similar situation, whether it was PCOS or something else, but there was connection that came through it, and there was a lot of support, and I think that sometimes we get kind of wrapped in ego, like we want to make things look good, but our people, our audience, our peoples, our community, like they want to see us,
Yeah.
Do good, and they want to, they want to help too. Like it can't just always, I don't know. I feel like sometimes like we can learn so much from,
Our audience. Yeah.
yeah,
I think too, it's, if our audience saw us in a vulnerable position, and it made us that much more real.
right, right,
That's the message I kept getting. And then watching us walk through that and like we do, because we have all our tools, for them to keep saying, like for me, they keep saying like, you're such a strong woman. Oh my God, you're so amazing, this and that. And it's like, no, I went through this shit show, but I'm not going to let it stop me or define me.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's a really good, yeah, message that I think the tools work. Like, I mean, life happens, but we get through it, and we get back on our unicorns, right?
Yeah, we get back on our unicorns. But at the same time, them being able to see us being vulnerable, I really believe that blew up in my audience, at least.
Oh yeah.
Like, wow, no, you really are real.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like yeah. You've had experiences that I've had too. Like,
Cool. So I don't want to say you're coming back, right? Because one of my coaches said you're not going that way, right? But
right, right.
but how has it been different for you as you're like opening up more space for your clients, or selling an offer? Is it different for you? Are you approaching it different? Like, share about that.
It feels a lot different. I feel it, rather than like I need to come up with my next offer. I need to, promote something. I need to have something to put out there. I'm more deep into my message and willing to take time to create the things that are close and dear to my heart rather than just something to put out there
So
just to have something to put out there, like feel like I need to tell you to make this work, I need to make income or whatever. But why did I start my business? It's really kind of brought me back to that. And it's like, well, it is to help people and, teach meditation, help people connect with intuition, find their confidence to follow it. And, so it's going to be a little less, but deeper.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I struggled with that in the beginning. And I just remember in the beginning of, I don't want to say coming back, but when I was like, okay, I'm ready to do something. And they were just like, just talk, just get on the podcast. So I did that for like 3 or 4 months. I just did podcasts. Like my audience loves the podcast. They love the guests that I bring on here. And like you said, it's like, what was my why? Like, obviously helping people, like you say, connect with spirit realm, find their purpose, but really it's bringing people together. I think it's a big chunk of what I do. It's like connecting these people with the other resources. And so I did that. But yeah, like it's interesting for me to like, I'll catch myself going back to freaking let's sell this offer. Woo! You know what I mean? But like with spirits, like what really feels so good right now. And just keeping the sales on the other side or the income on the other side, because it's so easy to go back into the masculine.
Yeah, which is important because you want to be excited to sell your offer and to go out, but yeah, it starts there with your excitement and your love for what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say is I saved something from when I went to yoga last week. I had the biggest download, and I'll just give a little tidbit here because I do want to record a little solo podcast about it. But literally, I was having a little bit of angst. I went to yoga instead of like creating some content. It was like the last minute somebody invited me, and I went and was having a little bit of angst. And then spirit was like, "This is your job right now. This is your job right now, not that. This." And so yeah, I'm going to do a whole podcast on that because that's literally what they're saying. Like, shut your pie hole.
Yeah. And that presence, like for me, it's been too, like that, those words that you said, it's like, but in the moment too, because like, okay, I have to like cooking takes time. Right. And so prepping food and stuff, but like, this is what I'm doing right now. And this is my priority. This is my job right now. And there will be time for the other things, but being present with like what you're doing too. Yeah.
Yeah. Cooking is big. Like, yeah, I guess that leads me to another question. Is there something specific for PCOS, for people with PCOS to eat or not eat? Or is it just generally everything? Like for all of us,
a lot of it is general, for all of us, things that would be super healthy for everybody, but things that like affects people with PCOS a little bit more. Sugar affects them a little bit more sensitive to the effects. The insulin resistance is a big thing, and so taking sugar almost completely out of my diet has been the big piece of what I've been doing. And then also just like, high, it's basically like, it's a stable blood sugar diet. Like you just want to keep your blood sugar like stable. So sugar and like breads and stuff like that. But it's also a little like listening to your body. There's been a couple foods that have been like specific for me that haven't, agreed well with me, that just from paying attention, to my body, I've kind of learned like eggs don't agree well with me, but
Okay. Yeah. Eggs is something that's like, because I started following like more of like the medical medium.
Mhm.
And he always talks about different foods that feed the pathogens in your body, which then causes disease, right? So
Mhm.
like eggs is one of them. I'll eat them, but I don't keep them at home. So a lot of the stuff like for my mindset is like I don't keep any of that at home. Anything that I'm not, so there's no bread, no eggs, no dairy, no, I don't use oil. So I just removed like a lot of that from at home. But then if I go out, like on the weekend, I'll go have breakfast.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that, it has been, because it's, yeah, and it's also very like anti-inflammatory diet. Like, if you would look up like an anti-inflammatory diet, it'd be very
Okay.
similar to what I've been doing. Um,
Well, you look amazing.
well, thank you.
You've got to feel better, right?
Oh yeah. And oh yeah, it's been a like going out to eat too, because it is like I kind of feel like I'm going against the grain of society, doing making those changes. Yeah, because when you go out, it can be difficult, but I've learned ways to, and it's okay. It's not about perfection either. Like any change, like any thing, it's not always about perfection. It's like those little things all add up, even if it wasn't perfect, it all adds up to results.
I think that's important for the audience to really, really get that part. It's not about being perfect. It's the little changes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking tiny changes. Like I used to put my trash in the back of my car and drive it to the trash bin. No, I walk to the trash bin now. What? Oh, so it's like, I don't know, not that many feet, but it's still that many feet. Like just that
Mhm.
tiny little thing.
Yeah.
Like give yourself
Yeah.
freaking credit for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, I don't work out like what, any extreme ways. Like I don't, exhaust myself. And honestly, like when I'm trying to make these changes, like in the moments, like there are so many mistakes, so many failed recipes or times where we've been out and I had no other choice, and so many just little things. And, in those moments, it felt like, oh, like, I'm not getting it. But then like taking the step back, it is the big picture. I've balanced my hormones. I've lost almost 40 pounds too, 35 pounds.
Yes.
Um, and so it's like, okay, it's little, it is. Big changes are really little changes that add up to big results.
Yes. And like I was sharing on my stories too about like maybe when we, because I feel like you and I were in the right mindset because we were like, oh, hell to the no. Right. Like, oh, I'm not accepting this into my reality.
Right.
Right. Um, but I think some people where they're like, oh, I'm just going to make this change. And they add all these routine things to their day and then they avoid them because it's like that's what you're not in the right mindset. You're just like saying that because some book says, do these 5 things in the morning and your life will be that fucking great. Right. Well, then you get up and you're just like, nah, never mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like for us, it was more like recognizing those small changes, but also being in the right mindset where I'm not giving up. I'm
Yeah.
not.
And if something doesn't work, yeah, keep
Yeah.
going. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Like having that self-compassion for yourself, that self-love to be like, it's okay, but also that compassion to be like, we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. So I've got to assume that you know so much more about the way your body works now,
All right. Yeah.
right? I think it's really important for people to figure that out because nobody's going to figure it out for you. You might have some people guiding you, like you had the group support and the natural doctor, and your sounded like your other regular primary doctor worked with you too. But I just sucked out of my head. I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway, what was I saying? It zapped out of my head. Something important.
Yeah, I'm sure I think that yeah, like working with all the different people, but listening to like myself, like spending that time with myself, my own cycle. Like we all have, like individual things about our bodies. Our bodies work. I thought we all kind of had the same bodies, honestly, but we don't.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like learning how your body works, because nobody's really going, like, I don't want to say nobody, but I do want to say nobody knows you the way you're going to know you.
Mhm.
You can have these other team members, but guess what? Like, and that's why I got really mad at like the medical community before, because when my husband kept going, getting all these tests, nobody knew. But so then I got really into like learning how my body works, because I'm like, I'm not going to let the medical community fail me, or let the medical community fail me. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have, like, I've learned about my own energy cycles, like, and around my period too. Like when I am, need to rest a little bit more in my life, and just listening to those things. And yeah.
I like it. So what did you say some of the symptoms were, like, just the weight gain, the energy loss, for the PCOS?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was like the energy loss, the weight gain. I had a lot of hormonal acne. Some facial hair started to grow. That was probably the biggest thing, where I was like, what? No. And when talking to women, but we get a little bit of chin hair, we get a little bit of, hair sometimes, but no, I was like, no, this is not, no, just no. But there's, for me, like, it does, like, physically, like, it looks like you have like little like cysts on your ovaries, and it can cause troubles with pregnancy, like getting pregnant. Like, thinking back, I haven't had a kid,
Wow.
probably partially because of that. Like, you can still get pregnant. Like I said, it's different for everybody, but
Okay.
I did have a lot of those cysts. And so I do think that that was a huge thing for me too, because I actually do want to have a kid. I'm getting a little older, so I'm like, okay, like, it's gonna happen, like, the next like 5 years or so. So it was really important for me to get it like under wraps, because although I don't know for sure how much it was affecting my fertility, it could be different for everybody, but I have an intuitive hunch that it was. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, you're on a mission now. I think would be super cool, like, for your audience to like share, like, for you to support them too, because they always say, our darkest moment is always something for us to share. Whatever we struggle with is what our audience loves to hear. Like, because we're real people, we're influencers. So it's like, guess what? This is the shit show I walked through, and let me share with you a little bit about it, So that's why I wanted you to be on the podcast too, because I seen you go through so much changes too. I'm like, oh.
I know. And I loved coming on here because, like, I'm very open, and I do like to share like my journey. And gosh, like, it's part of what I do. Like, I like to be an open book. And sometimes like with me stepping back and stuff, I love opportunities like this where I can actually talk, because like sometimes posts, like, you can read them, but hear me.
Amen to that. Yes. That's one of the reasons why I started just doing the podcast. Cause I'm like, okay, I know I could talk. I know I could talk, but I didn't want to sell. I wasn't ready to sell. I didn't know what I was going to sell, so I was like, just talk and it'll come to you. So I'm so grateful you were on here.
Me too.
Where can everybody find you nowadays?
Well, I'm on the social still, in Facebook and Instagram, and then my website. So I am all over the place. I'm Deann Ray Jensen, and I can send you my website. It's deannrayjensen.com.
It's RAE Ray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deann, and then RAEJENSEN.
Awesome. You guys got to check her out. Faux show.
Yeah, and I have lots of good stuff on there. Like I've got some meditations and all my stuff, but I think that there are some good meditations that I have on there, like to support people if they are going through some changes.
Which is exactly our topic of this podcast, like big changes, man.
Yeah.
Out of that masculine into the feminine, slow your ass down, pay attention, be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And then heal and then lead, I guess, or show the way.
I love it.
Love it.
That's the journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on here.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.